They thought she was just another inspector. Blonde, quiet, clipboard in hand. Nobody looked twice until the siren screamed. While the base panicked, she walked toward a locked hangar no one dared touch. No one stopped her. No one could. And by the time they realized who she really was, she was already in the sky, alone, against 20 drones. And the world would never forget what happened next. She stepped off the shuttle bus at NATO Air Base just after sunrise, the sky still brushed in shades of blue steel and ash. The wind bit at her collar. Frost glittered on the edges of the runway. Nobody looked twice. Not at her tan flight boots, scuffed and silent. Not at her olive drab flight jacket, zipped to the throat. Not even at her calm, unreadable face beneath a plain black cap. To the morning crew, fueling fighters and checking logbooks, she was just background noise. A Level 4 systems auditor, there to nitpick their maintenance records, scribble a few notes, and fly off to the next base. No one knew her name. No one asked. And that was exactly how she liked it. She moved quietly down the tarmac, a clipboard under one arm, duffel in the other. Her green eyes flicked from jet to jet in F-35 here, a Eurofighter there, even a lumbering KC-135 tanker waiting in the shadows. But she didn't linger, didn't chat, didn't need to be seen. One of the younger crewmen, Chun, nudged his buddy Alvarez and smirked. Another clipboard queen. Bet she's never even been near a live engine. Alvarez just shrugged. Leave her be. She'll be gone by lunch. If Harper Quinn heard them, she gave no sign. She stepped into Hangar 1 and disappeared into its metallic hum, radios crackling, compressors hissing, the smell of oil and ozone heavy in the air. She moved between aircraft like she was memorizing a dream. Her fingers traced along weapon pylons, paused at avionics panels, studied the readouts behind cockpit glass. But she wasn't just inspecting parts. She was seeing patterns, drawing lines in her mind. And behind those calm green eyes, something was counting down. Back in the ready room, Commander Eric Lindholm was nursing a third cup of burnt coffee, trying not to think about the hollowed-out state of the air wings. Half the squadrons were off-site for NATO drills. The rest were grounded for maintenance or delayed by logistics. It wasn't supposed to matter. Not today. It was just another audit. Until the siren screamed. The sound shattered the air at 0740 sharp long. Sharp, rising, falling. Not a drill. Not the usual alert tone. This was code black. Pilots dropped coffee mugs and sprinted. Crew chiefs pulled tarps and yanked ignition cables free. Alarm lights flashed across the tower, the hangars, the comms room. The base went from half asleep to combat ready in less than a minute. Except there were no birds in the air, and no pilots were clear to fly. Lindholm stood frozen at the tower railing, watching radar screens explode in red. A swarm of bogies. Dozens. Closing fast. Origin unknown, the radar tech called out. Autonomous strike drones. Multiple waves. Confirmed hostile. ETA, 28 minutes. The commander's voice dropped an octave. Who's in the air? Sir, no one. What do you mean no one? One aircraft is combat prepped, but it has no assigned pilot. And somewhere below, walking against the tide of chaos, Harper Quinn removed her cap. A curtain of sunlit blonde hair fell across her shoulder. She didn't shout. She didn't ask. She simply walked. Not toward the shelters. Not toward the gate. She moved quietly, calmly toward Hangar 3. And that's when the murmurs started. 2 armed MPs blocked her path. Ma'am, this area is restricted. You don't have clearance. She looked at him just once. Not with anger. Not with panic. With inevitability. Then she reached into her jacket and pulled out a badge the MP had never seen before. Dark steel. Black trim. Engraved with a symbol almost forgotten. A hawk, clutching a bolt of lightning. The MP froze. Saluted. And stepped aside. Inside the tower, Lindholm was shouting into radios, barking for any available personnel. No one could answer the question on everyone's lips. Who's in Hangar 3? Who's powering up Raptor 7? Who gave clearance? The answer came not from a voice, but from the radar screen. One blip moved. A single fighter jet emerged from the hangar matte gray F-22 Raptor with its engines whispering menace into the morning chill. On its tail, the faint outline of a hawk, painted in war-worn black. Back on the tarmac, the ground crew stood still, watching the impossible unfold. Chun blinked twice. That jet hasn't flown in years. Alvarez's jaw tensed. She knew the codes. No one laughed now. And somewhere high above, a storm of metal wings was closing in. But Harper Quinn was already climbing the ladder. And the war weather the base was ready or not was about to begin. The ladder groaned beneath her boots. Each rung echoed like a countdown. As Harper Quinn climbed into the cockpit of Raptor 7, a strange silence fell over the flight line. The roar of engines, the chaos of scrambling personnel, the urgent shouts from control it all seemed to dim around her. The canopy closed with a hiss. Inside, the jet was dark and dormant, untouched for years. But her hands knew every switch, every sequence. They moved without hesitation, flicking toggles, unlocking safeties, initiating startup codes no one else even remembered. Outside, mechanics stood frozen, whispering like they were watching a ghost take flight. She's powering the HUD. That thing was mothballed a decade ago. How the hell does she know the boot sequence? In the tower, Commander Lindholm stared at the screen. Who the hell is in that cockpit? He demanded. A young technician, pale, trembling, stammered. Sir, she showed a badge I didn't recognize. Black steel. Phantom Ops emblem. Lindholm went still. Phantom Ops. The room fell silent. Nobody dared speak. Phantom Ops was the kind of program you didn't mention unless you wanted a file with your name on it locked in a vault forever. Back in the cockpit, Harper exhaled slowly, deliberately. The HUD flickered to life, glowing soft green across the curved glass. Spirit Hawk to tower, she said calmly. Requesting immediate combat intercept clearance. There was a pause static, then a stunned voice. Spirit Hawk, you're cleared. Godspeed. She smiled faintly. Copy. Spirit Hawk rolling. The afterburners lit the runway in a bloom of blue and fire. The jet surged forward like a beast uncaged, wheels screaming against concrete, then lifting clean into open sky. Harper's body pressed back into the seat, her eyes narrowing as the horizon dropped away. Altitude warnings chirped. She silenced them. Down below, Alvarez took off his cap. Chun stood slack-jawed. That's not an inspector, he whispered. No, Alvarez said. That's a damn warbird. In the tower, red lines swarmed across radar. Multiple drones confirmed. Estimate 20 plus in first wave. Autonomous. Coordinated. Any friendlies within range? Negative. NATO QRF is 30 minutes out. No backup. She's alone. Lindholm stared out the window, watching the lone jet disappear into the morning haze. Then she's all we've got. Far above, Harper flew into the rising sun. Her fingers danced over the controls with effortless grace. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't panicking. She was sensing mind and machine, memory and metal, years of muscle memory, slotting into place like a symphony tuning up. Her voice came back through the radio. Spirit Hawk to tower. Tactical link is hot. Intercept vector locked. Copy, came the reply. Be adversary outnumbered. Heavily. I've been outnumbered before. And that was all she said. The first contact came fast. A glint at 38,000 feet. Then two more. Then a whole swarm mangled wings, sleek black bodies, no cockpits, no hesitation. Just death on autopilot. But Harper saw them like chess pieces. 10 red dots. Then 15. Then 20. She didn't flinch. She banked hard right, rolled beneath the swarm, and loosed her first missile. A drone exploded in a ball of flame. The next two followed quick, surgical. Her fingers moved like a conductor's baton, her breath steady, controlled. Sweat gathered at her temple, but her expression never changed. Spirit Hawk to tower. 3 down. Engaging. In the tower, radar lit up with flashing bursts. She's fighting them. She's actually fighting them alone. Lindholm didn't say a word. He just leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen like a man trying to will the impossible into being. In the cockpit, Harper moved with eerie calm. Her right hand eased the stick. Her left feathered the throttle. Her legs braced, guiding the Raptor through moves no simulator could ever replicate. Missiles streaked past her. Some she dodged. Some she lured into countermeasures. Her voice remained even. Tower, kill count, 6. Confirmed. but they're adjusting, learning your patterns. She glanced at her radar. The swarm was fanning out, now trying to flank her, press her toward the coast where enemy SAM batteries were rumored to be waiting. Noted, and then she vanished from radar. Cut power, glided into a cloud bank, re-engaged behind them like a hawk diving from the sun. 3 more drones exploded before they realized where she was. Back at the base, no one was working anymore. Mechanics, officers, even kitchen staff were huddled around tower monitors and hallway comms. Watching, waiting. Who is she? Someone whispered. And no one had an answer, because no one ever expected the hawk to return. Not in a time of peace. Not from behind a clipboard. Not from inside a ghost jet. But here she was, painting the sky with fire and grace and a level of skill that left hardened officers speechless. Harper's breathing was still calm, focused, but now her voice had a new edge to it. Not urgency. Purpose. Tower. I'm marking new vectors. Second wave inbound. Heavier. Smarter. Copy. Confirming 15 additional hostiles approaching fast. You still have no reinforcements. I'll manage. Her lips curved not into a smile, into something harder, and she pulled the throttle full forward, straight into hell. At 50,000 feet, the sky changed. It stopped being blue. It became silver, cold, weightless, the kind of silence that eats lesser pilots alive. But Harper Quinn didn't just survive in that silence, she thrived in it. Spirit hawk to tower. Her voice came through, steady as a metronome. Visual on second wave. 15 hostiles. Coordinated net pattern. Engaging. Copy Spirit hawk. Still no reinforcements inbound. You're alone out there. I've been alone before. Back on the ground, the control tower had gone dead silent. Every screen lit red with incoming targets. Every available body was watching the feed now, all voices hushed like they were in church. In Hangar 2, a group of young airmen had stopped mid-repair. They stood in front of a dusty monitor, eyes wide. Did she just say second wave? No one's ever flown solo against 2 waves. She's not even breaking a sweat. But she was. In the cockpit, her blonde hair was plastered to her jaw. Her eyes never blinked. Her flight suit clung to her with sweat and grease. But every movement was deliberate. Every adjustment calculated. Then first missile inbound. From above. A hunter-killer drone tried to use the glare of the sun to blindside her. But Harper saw it coming before her threat sensors did. She rolled the Raptor into a perfect, knife-edge dive. The missile screamed harmlessly past her canopy. Another pair locked on behind. Her countermeasure pod hissed chaff and flares erupted around her in a web of confusion. Then she vanished into it like smoke. Inside the tower, the radar blinked then burst. She's in the middle of them, the technician whispered. She's inside the swarm. What kind of training produces that? Someone muttered. Lindholm answered without turning. Not training. Phantom ops. Every head turned. What? The commander's voice was low. Reverent. 10 years ago, before the world even knew drone swarms existed, there was one woman cleared to fly against them. No wingman. No fight surface. Just raw instinct and neural flight link. He pointed to the screen where the Raptor spun through impossible turns. She didn't just fly those ops. She designed them. Back in the sky, Harper's lips were moving again, not in prayer. In counting. 6. A drone exploded beneath her guns. 5. She dodged another missile by cutting power, letting herself fall into a dead drop, then snapping upward like a rocket. 4. Spirit hawk to tower. Secondary wave thinning. I'm pushing through. Spirit hawk, confirm, are you saying you're breaking their net? I'm not giving them time to tighten it. Her Raptor danced through fire. Every roll, every bank defied textbook flight theory. This was art. Violence turned graceful. Then the swarm adjusted. 3 prongs. A classic boxing strategy. They were learning her rhythms. They were pushing her toward the coastline, where hidden surface-to-air batteries could finish what the drones couldn't. But Harper wasn't fooled. She didn't retreat. Tower, she called. Divert attention to Grid 7 Alpha. I'm punching through. She killed the power. Again, let the Raptor fall into silence. 20,000 feet. 15,000. The drones lost her signature. Radar scrambled. At 11,000 feet, she reignited. Popped up behind them. Guns blazing. 2 more down. 1 crippled. The rest scattered. In the tower, someone whispered what they were all thinking. She's not flying that jet. She is that jet. A young lieutenant turned to Lindholm. Sir, what do we do if she doesn't make it back? The commander didn't respond right away. Then, in a voice that sounded years older than it had minutes before, he said, we write her story down, and we remember who she was. Back in the sky, Harper's breath had quickened. Not panic. Focus. Lasered. Tower. Kill count 13. 2 remaining. Engaging. A final missile arced toward her from behind. She didn't dodge. She slowed down. Let close. Then lured it into her own countermeasure blast. Gone. One drone left. She climbed hard into the sun. The Raptor roared like a living thing. Spirit Hawk to tower. Splash 15. Secondary wave neutralized. There was a long pause on the line. Then came the voice of the radar tech. Quiet. Awestruck. She did it. But Harper wasn't done. Spirit Hawk, the tower called. SAM batteries lighting up on coastline. They're waiting for your exit vector. They're smarter than I thought, she muttered. But not smart enough. Do you want to wait for reinforcements? 15 minutes out. No. She gripped the stick, eyes narrowing. They'll expect me to leave the way I came. I won't. She nosed the Raptor downward, toward the mountains, toward the kind of terrain even birds hesitated to cross. In the tower, the radio crackled as the Raptor dropped off comms. Altitude warning. Static. Then nothing. And still no one spoke. They just stared at the radar and waited. Waited to see if the Hawk would return. She vanished into the mountains like smoke. The radar blinked once, then went dark. In the tower, silence spread like frost. Fingers hovered over keyboards. Eyes fixed on empty screens. Even Lindholm, battle-hardened, stood frozen. Spirit Hawk, the comms officer called out. Do you copy? No answer. Come on, Chen whispered from the flight line. Don't let that be the end. Then just as the radar tech looked away blip. A single blue mark. Moving fast. Too fast. It shot from the edge of Grid 7 Alpha, cut through Echo Valley, and burst out low across the hills with a trail of vapor burning gold behind it. Spirit Hawk to tower, came the voice hoarse low but steady. Ground batteries neutralized. Terrain masking effective. Exfiltrating through Valley Echo 9. Cheers didn't erupt. No one who had watched what she did could cheer. They just stood there, reverent. Silent. Lindholm exhaled for the first time in what felt like an hour. Copy that, Spirit Hawk. No hostiles on radar. You're clear to come home. On my way. But even her voice had changed. Not from exhaustion, though. She had every right to be drained. No, it was something deeper. A quiet that comes only after you've done the impossible and known no one else will ever truly understand. As the Raptor banked into the sunrise, its silhouette framed in crimson and gold, the base below seemed to hold its breath. The jet touched down with eerie grace. No dramatic flyby. No triumphant roll. Just a whisper of tires on tarmac. The engines wound down. The canopy hissed open. Cold dawn air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of jet fuel and burnt ozone. Harper Quinn sat still for a long moment. Her hands hovered over the controls. Then, slowly, she shut it down. The ladder clanged into place. The chocks locked beneath the wheels. And then she stepped down. Blonde hair stuck damp to her cheeks. Her green eyes steel. Her flight suit was soaked in sweat, grease, and silence. As she walked across the tarmac, the same mechanics who had laughed just hours earlier now stood at rigid attention. One by one, they raised their hands in silent salute. She didn't return it, not at first. She just walked past them, boots clicking softly like a metronome. But just before she reached the hangar doors, she paused, turned, looked at them, and gave the faintest nod. In the tower, Lindholm leaned on the railing, watching her cut through the morning fog like a blade. You see, he said to no one in particular, that's what a hawk really looks like. When she reached the briefing room, the base commander was already waiting. His uniform was immaculate. His face, unreadable. But something in his eyes had shifted relief, awe, and maybe a little fear. Captain Quinn, he said at last, voice tight with respect. You've exceeded every expectation. She set her helmet on the table, met his gaze without a hint of triumph. I didn't do it for expectations, sir. He chuckled, softly, almost like he'd been waiting to be reminded what humility sounded like. No, I suppose you didn't. He cleared his throat. Mission success confirmed. 0 casualties. All hostiles neutralized. You saved everyone. For the first time all morning, Harper's shoulders eased. Good, she said. A moment later, the door burst open. A young lieutenant, breathless. Sir, Pentagon's calling. They don't want to debrief her immediately. The commander's jaw tensed. He waved the boy away. She'll debrief when she's ready. Then he looked at Harper. And what about you? Do you want to stay? She tilted her head. Thought for a long moment. Then in that same quiet voice, she replied, I'll stay as long as they need me. Not a second longer. Later, after the base had returned to its routines, and the outside world began to buzz with rumors of a phantom pilot who had saved a continent, Harper sat alone, legs dangling from the wing of her aircraft, sipping lukewarm black coffee. The sunrise painted the runway in liquid gold. Frost sparkled on the tarmac below like crushed glass. Chin approached slowly. She didn't look up. He cleared his throat. I wanted to say sorry. For doubting you. She turned, looked at him, her eyes unreadable, but not unkind. You don't need to apologize, she said. Then after a beat, but thanks. He handed her the mug and turned away. You really are something else, he muttered. She smirked faintly, sipped the bitter brew. I'm just a pilot, she murmured. A damn good one. By the time the news vans reached the gates, she was gone. The Raptor sat gleaming in the hangar. The only evidence she had ever been there at all. Somewhere far from Falcon Ridge, an unmarked black SUV waited by an empty stretch of highway. She climbed in without a word. The driver didn't ask where she wanted to go. He just glanced at her in the mirror and said, Another day, another legend. She didn't answer, just stared out the window. As the SUV pulled away, a low voice crackled through a secure frequency one last time. Spirit Hawk has left the nest. And so she did. The woman they once mocked for her clipboard and boots. The ghost with green eyes and nerves of steel. The hawk who rose alone then disappeared into the sky again. And somewhere, someday, when the sirens scream once more, she'll return. Because that's what the hawk does. Greatness doesn't always wear medals. Sometimes it walks quietly in boots carrying a clipboard until the moment the world needs it most. In a time when loud voices demand the spotlight, she reminded us that real courage doesn't shout, it shows up, acts, and leaves no need for applause. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just be the last line between chaos and calm. If this story moved you, share it. Let someone you love remember what quiet strength looks like. Drop a comment. Have you ever met someone like Spirit Hawk? Or do you believe maybe you are that person and just haven't been tested yet?